It's blue-white game week. I'm just going to say game because it's easier to say, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's not going to be an actual game this weekend. We're going to get more details on that very shortly, as in we already have them, and you can go read them at bluewhiteillustrated.com, but we're going to talk about it here today on the BWI Live Show. I'm Thomas Frankar. We have Sean Fitz and Nate Bauer here, your reporters extraordinaire for bluewhiteillustrated.com. Gentlemen, I'm glad that you're here. Very important week. And we're going to start off, final week of spring football, but we're going to get 90 seconds from each of you on related but not related topics. This is why I asked you before the show, did you actually open the rundown today? Fitz, in case we don't get to it, because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about from Matt Campbell and the people we talked to after practice today, give me 90 seconds of your best recruiting hot takes from the weekend. And by hot takes, I mean information, opinion. I don't care. Just like, what do you got from a recruiting standpoint that you want to share with people to start the show?
I mean, it's hot right now. You look at what Penn State's trying to do to build on this class, and 3 commitments in 2 days doesn't move the needle as much as following Peter Bork, following Khalil Taylor not visiting Indiana. Like, there's a lot going on right now, but a lot of it's quarterback focused. And when you take a look at classes in general, April has been a massive month for dominoes nationally with quarterbacks, and Penn State's no stranger to that. Will Menzel's about to announce it's not going to be Penn State. So you're looking at Peter Bork. And, oh, by the way, they brought in another New England quarterback in the class of 2027 yesterday, and Will Wood, and offered him while he was on campus. Also moved up an evaluation stop to go see him throw on Friday. So all of that, very, very interesting to me. Peter Bork, we were talking about Notre Dame for a second. Doesn't seem like we're talking about Notre Dame anymore, as Champ Mons is going to commit to Notre Dame at some point. So there's just so many things, so many moving pieces right now, and it's very, very interesting. And to keep up with it, depending on when you're listening to this, hopefully you're listening live, but depending on when you're listening to this, things could change very quickly. I do expect him to have a decision in the near future. I think he's aiming for this week at some point. But Virginia Tech, Georgia, Penn State, all still in the mix, and it's just so many fascinating dynamics at play. And I think that's my 90 seconds. So Nate, you're up.
Yeah, Nate. So there's a lot to unpack there, and we just don't have time to unpack it. So make sure you return for the Thursday recruiting show. Great time to unpack all those thoughts. Nate, everyone likes to dunk on, pun intended, the Penn State basketball team. And I know normally we don't talk about the basketball team here just because the metrics show when we do, people tune out physically and emotionally. But it's a big time. Like, it is a big time right now with the mass exodus in the portal and trying to rebuild through the portal. So 90 seconds on what's going on with the basketball team. Where do they stand at this point?
That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
What happened this weekend? Jamison White decommitted, right? So their lone class of 2026, right? He would have been a true freshman this summer. They split. They parted ways. And so, look, there are a couple things happening. One, Mike Rhodes was determined to get older, bigger, stronger, faster, all of that. And this offseason. And so part of that was a purge of a roster that was overwhelmingly tilted to inexperienced players. And he replaced them with a bunch of older guys. So international pros, right? Like actual professionals who played internationally have been playing for years. One is 24 years old, right? Like a 7th-year kid from Central Connecticut State. These guys are old. And so, there's a little bit of a nobody's ever heard of these players element to it, including the transfers, the veteran transfers that they brought in. These guys are not household names, but if you're going to give a benefit of the doubt to a program that just had a very miserable season, it would be that Yannick Koenig-Niederhauser also was not a household name before he came to Penn State. And so you're trusting the judgment of talent evaluation, or you're not. And so that's really kind of the story of Penn State basketball this offseason is they were given a bigger budget to work with and used it for players that no one has ever heard of, are not all conference players, but have shown enough through the scouting and the evaluation period for Penn State to feel confident bringing them in and making competitive offers to add them to the roster. So
what's fascinating to me about, and I'm sorry, you threw a question about what basketball is, you look at these guys committing to, big time programs. And I think there's a pecking order here where these big time programs get in the front of the line and then everybody else gets the scraps. And, but you're looking at guys that are averaging 8 points a game going to, Kentucky, and it's all about the evaluation. It's all about what they know about them basically as high school prospects. Now there's not as much fluctuation in basketball from what you are as a prospect to what you eventually become as a player. And there's busts obviously all the time. But it's very, very different than, me sitting over here at football talking about, taking a freshman, taking Amari Miller from Boston College and trying to figure out how these pieces fit. I got that name wrong. How these pieces fit on a 105-man roster versus on a 13-man roster.
Yeah,
there is
bigger changes smaller changes make bigger impacts with fewer numbers for sure.
It's an interesting study and I don't follow the NBA, so I'm the wrong guy to talk about this. But I think it applies to the NFL as well. Pat Kraft and really administratively are putting to work this idea of you don't have the budget to pay for 15 players, right? You can have that many spots. And yes, you may want those bodies. And I think Mike Rhodes is used to a situation where he's had developmental programs and you churn that line. That doesn't exist at Penn State. And I don't think it exists for football either. For football, you're paying your top 22 players. You're paying your top 44 players, right? So the 22 to 23
Let me make
44.
a quick distinction here. Can I just ask you a quick distinction?
Yeah.
When you say you're paying your top 22 or paying your top 44, are you saying the rest of the team gets no money?
No, I'm not. Of course not.
Okay.
Right?
Because I think that's an important distinction, because I think some people will take that literally of like you're paying $5 million for this position and $0 for this other position. And so I just wanted to make that clear.
How you're allocating the funds that you have is for basketball is okay. Whether you carry 13 or 15, the only ones that you can afford to actually be intentional about how you're spending your money are the top 8, the top 7. And so if you have injuries, which impact every program, you're not going to have anybody that's going to be able to step in and help out. because 9, 10, 11, 12, if they get to 13, those guys are not expected to play at this level. They're not expected to be contributors. They're not working to become contributors. That's just not how it can be at Penn State. Duke might be able before that.
Sounds like a great way to build teams. It's like, hey, we don't plan on half of you being anything at this level. We do have to put the conversation down.
Sorry.
Because Bizzle...
My 90 seconds.
Your 90 seconds went for about 5 minutes. Bizzle says, it's all right, Nate. Did you know that when you like the video, a little football animation appears? That's awesome. I did not know that. And please, we need 1,000 footballs flying throughout the show. So like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. We had our 5 minutes of basketball for the year. Let's get into Between the Lines.
I met with Dan Connor, and it took 2 seconds to say, this human gets it. He is Penn State football.
I gotta stop using that graphic. I blew out my own ears just then. Sorry to everybody. I know the audio is an adventure here on the show. We're working on it because literally I have no control over it. Let's get into some of the conversation we had today with Matt Campbell. And the most important thing is, I think, for fans is, what is the blue-white game going to be like? Here's what he had to say.
This time around is you're going to get to experience what this fan base feels like and how special this place really is. And I think even, last Saturday, there were a lot of big eyes walking into that stadium and how powerful it feels to walk in there. And I think the opportunity to do that with our fan base this weekend, we can't waste a great practice. I think these are critical reps for our football team. So I kind of see the first 20, 25 minutes of like what normal practice would look like, a team stretch, and then obviously get ourselves a little bit of individual inside run, a little bit of 7-on-7, but then, really the bulk load of the rest of the day will be driving. We'll get an opportunity to just continue to work on our football team and work on driving the football different areas of the field. But, a lot like probably what you see on most spring games.
Two things to clarify there. We picked up in the middle of his response. They were at the Beaver Stadium at the practice looked like Saturday, Fitz. Secondly, when he's talking about driving, he's talking about the offense is going to go on a drive in a situation that they're going to work on. So it's not going to be a game where they're going to go back and forth and points are tallied. It's going to be working on situations they want to work with the offense and the defense to put them in so that they can get good work, as he said, a good practice. So, Fitz, I want to come to you. Just any part of that, we can back up and talk about last Saturday, talk about what you expect from this, but what did you take away from his response about how the blue-white game is going to be laid out for fans?
Yeah, game is doing a lot of work there because it's an extended practice session where they're going to try and get some live work in and really I think maybe throw it around a little bit. And he mentioned some 7-on-7, so I think that it's just fractured practice basically is what you're looking at, and it's an opportunity to get some people excited. And again, blue white game. It's been in different formats throughout the years. This one I think is just going to be a little bit slower, a little bit different. He mentioned the typical first 15, 20 minutes of practice with stretching and all that stuff. Usually it's more like get in there, do your game intro rep, which doesn't sound like much, but like that's got to be something that they've got to get down at some point, to get ready to get guys out of the tunnel. Like it's going to be different than Iowa State. Good point. It's going to be different than wherever this team is. So like all those little things that you don't think about, it's an opportunity on Saturday because you can at least play off some of the crowd, whatever's going to be there. Of course, Penn State sent out some stuff where, you're not going to be able to get to several portions of the stadium. It's an active construction zone. That makes sense. But yeah, I think you're going to see some live stuff. You're going to see some guys flash. You're going to see them protect the quarterbacks. But with where they're at from a health perspective on the roster, I think it's pretty much what you can expect is to take these things easily. But also, there might be a few highlight-worthy plays there.
Yeah. There's going to be some things for fans to get their teeth into. But, Nate, this is really going to be what we've experienced over the last couple of weeks of seeing just what a practice looks like. How do you think fans are going to react to this? And what are you thinking?
Two things. And maybe I'm misremembering this. They did the same thing last year. Am I wrong? Was 7-on-7 not
7-on-7 was part of it, yeah.
It was.
It's probably fairly similar, I'm guessing.
So what we didn't see last year is we didn't see individual drills or warm-ups. So like that first half of the practice of where they would edit that part out and kind of go to more. This is more of like what I said, what we've seen of like you're going to see circuit drills and stuff, but the sounds of it.
Isn't that it's just about the designated start time because before every game, those same things happen. We watch them. It's just before kickoff. so
that's a great point.
If they chose to do the first 20 to 25 minutes at 12:30 instead of 1, it would be the exact same thing that happens. There's just a lot of semantics going on here. It's a practice, but they're gonna maybe work practice with a little bit more offense versus defense than they would otherwise, right? I think that's kind of the takeaway. 2, to Fitz's point, and a thing that I'm vastly interested in because I think it doesn't get talked about nearly enough in sports in general is, we always talk about just performances, right? People playing at their best, whatever. Guys get nervous. Like nerves are like a thing, right? The thing that you do at practice and then translating that to a game are very different based on the stage that you're performing on. And so the more of that experience that they can have is better. It serves those players to have had some of those experiences. So maybe the next time, which in this case will be August 31st?
September 5th.
September 5th.
I mean, they're going to practice.
Like
they'll go in there again, during camp.
But in front of thousands of people, changes things.
Yeah.
So
This one from Bizzle here in the chat. He's back. He asks, Bizzle here is a co-host at this point. How many practices have they had in the stadium so the players get used to the environment and the depth perception? Not just those things, but even like how does the wind swirl in the stadium? I was talking to some people back in the early off season asking about some of that stuff, and we were talking about it. I was like, well, with the construction going on, I have no idea how that's changed the topography of the wind that comes in and swirls in the stadium. So trying to get used to even the environment, if you can, in the stadium as well, because those things affect the kicking game. They affect, and obviously Justin Lustig has been here, but also the passing game as well. Fitz, do you know offhand how many times? I know if they've been in the stadium this past weekend. I try to remember if it's not more than one time. It might be two that they've been in Beaver Stadium this year. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think this is the third time, but I would have to go back and check. I don't know that offhand, but it's like, if you're a basketball player, you step into a gym and the depth perception's off, the sight lines are off, and it's going to affect your shot. I mean, this is something that they need to rep, and it's not important for the masses to understand that, but like when you get in there and Rocco Beck is going to see a different backdrop. It's like, move to another sport, pitching. There's a batter's eye back there. You need different keys for your stadium. You need different understandings. You think about, I mean, even last year when we were up in the other sides of the suites, we're talking about the sun coming in and the sun just beating you down, which didn't happen on the other side. You don't think about these things when you're going through your typical sort of routines. And obviously it's a lot harder for them playing football than us writing, but like that sun was really hot, man. No, but it's
those media game reps, man.
Yeah, when you take the live media game reps and you're giving updates in the in-game thread, I mean, there's the only way to replicate the in-game thread is by throwing a grenade and jumping on it, or just having it play out during the spring.
What if you have 100 people come over and stab you with a fork for 2 hours? How about that?
Oh man, sign me up. I live for the in-game thread.
Nate, I know another thing you also live for, and something that I have to say, it's been bad of me. I have not gotten down there in a while, and that is Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Tell me about Anti-Fragile.
Yeah, Fitz and I this past Friday made an appearance, and it's just as good as I remember it. East Calder Way, best beer in State College, and a variety of beers. They're actually celebrating their 4th anniversary since they've been in that location, and it's great. They've got anniversary beer on tap, and cheesesteaks out front at Uncle John's, and just bread inside. They're serving coffee now from Rothrock. Like it is.
Ooh.
You name it. It is a one-stop shop, and not only one stop, but something that is just near and dear to my heart is this idea of community. And
yes,
right, like when you go in there, it is a community, and that's whether you go there often or whether you never go there and are just stepping foot for the first time. Fitz and I ran into a couple of guys who just came to check the place out because we talk about it on this show all the time. I think maybe hoping to run into us, but if not, that's cool too, right? They just got to enjoy the experience, the beer, the coffee, what have you, and ended up having some good conversation there. So it is always a pleasure to see this conversation that we have on this show turn into business for them, but also an opportunity for us to connect with you guys, right? The people that are watching and the people that are listening. It's genuinely, cannot stress this enough, the most flattering thing in the world to like be recognized and then have people want to talk to us. They apparently are not aware of how dumb I am. Or
it's a
maybe
great place to
know.
go. It's a great place to go because you're standing right next to a beer tap, and then everyone wants to buy Nate a beer. So it is a very good place for Nate to hang out, which is fun.
Nate paid for my tab the other day, so he might even buy you one. So it's a good thing. By the way, Nate, I did get in trouble for staying too long on Friday. So yeah, that was
you deserved it. I did not.
Worth it. Worth it. We had a wonderful time. And T-Frank, you might have to go shoot some new B-roll because they've done some remodeling inside. That's really nice.
They have.
Yeah, I need to do a lot of that for a lot of our clients. There's just a bunch of stuff going on, including, like, if you're coming in this weekend, you have some beer at Anti-Fragile, maybe check out Blue Brick Theater just down Calder Way on the other side of town. They're going to have shows Friday night at 7 p.m. If you're coming in this Friday, obviously it's a good time, but any Friday, 7 p.m., it's just $15 for tickets, supporting, again, local comedy. You get a 90-minute show with 3 acts. I actually have some friends that are doing their stand-up work, because you can also go and sign up at the Blue Brick Theater to learn how to do improv, comedy, things like that. It's an awesome place. James Tierney, fan of the show, friend of the show, appreciate him. And then, of course, like, here's the thing, guys. I don't know about you, but, like, this job is fun. I need to get away soon with recruiting and with everything we have going on with spring football. Like, at some point, we need to unplug. And if you want to unplug, there's not a better place to go than Maine. And another place that you could go in Maine is the Boulder Point Lake House. Again, fans of the show, friends of the show, are up there. They have this brand new house, luxury in the wilderness, which for Nate and I, luxury in the wilderness is about exactly what you would want when you're going to be going and fishing for a weekend or for a week. Here's the thing. The almighty algorithm is not just a YouTube thing. It is everywhere. Everything is dictated by numbers and stats and a supercomputer that doesn't care about you or your family. So, Penn State family, mom, grad, and a son that's a junior at Penn State, they own this house, and they want to reach out to other Penn State fans and say, hey, come book with us and just get away for the summer. Gas prices are going to be expensive, so flying is going to be incredibly expensive this summer. What if you just take a trip up to Maine? If you're local to the Northeast, that'll be cheaper than flying. And if not, forget what I just said about gas and just, go up and check it out. Architect-designed house on an 11-chain lake, which is in beautiful mid-Maine, just about an hour and a half from the coast. So if you want to go check out lighthouses and go whale watching, you can take a day trip. There's just so much stuff to do, including unplugging and connecting with nature. Fitz, I know you're a fisherman, so if you want to go check this out, you and I think we both, have you been to Maine? I have a Portland and Portland thing I've wanted to do, going to Portland, Oregon, then going to Portland, Maine. Have you been to Maine yet?
I have not been to Maine. It's been on it's been on the schedule twice. The first was 2020 and the last was last summer. So it has not come through. I do really want to get up there because it looks incredible. I'm looking at it right now. It's a wonderful house and setting. It's just like really cool.
Last thing is, if you are a BWI listener, what, you've been to Maine? Very good.
Sure have.
You look like you got off a boat right now. You look like you were at the dock with your sailing boat, and you just
I'm a lobster collar. Yeah, no, I love lobster.
I was going for a different boat, Nate. You're very yuppie looking today. It's a good look.
Okay. Anyway,
if you're a BWI listener, you can go directly to their Facebook page and avoid the Verbo and the booking fees on other sites. So check out Boulder Point Lake House on Facebook. You can message them there. I did not get it into the description of the video, but I will by the end of the show. So make sure you go and do that. Okay. Appreciate everyone who supports the show. Appreciate you listening to all of that and supporting them. Let's get into more of what Matt Campbell had to say earlier today. So here is what he had to say when asked, hey, how's it gone? How's camp progressed for everybody?
Yeah, I think there's been great growth in spring practice. I think the emphasis is how, right? How we're going to do what we're going to do, putting in some baseline things on offense and defense so we can really evaluate our football team. And to, even when you walk off the field last Saturday and you got about 75 team reps in practice and the ability to really evaluate our kids. Where are we? Who can do what? And I think the last 3 days will be that, first of all, how do we practice? And then number two, what do we have? And, part of that's a little cloudy because you're still, without a couple quarterbacks, without your really, your top three receivers, and then you're trying to kind of navigate, the rest of the football team. But honestly, it's been awesome. It's been awesome for so many guys to get the foundation, even those guys starting to get a foundation of what we're going to do on both sides of the ball, even if they're not getting team reps or getting individual reps.
So the thing that I thought was interesting in there was he said, because last week he said, what are we good at? We want to figure out what we're going to be good at, work on that, get good at that in spring. And here, basically, he said that's still a little bit cloudy because of all the injury situation. So Fitz, deal, no deal? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, you look at what's available on Saturday, and you're going to have questions about how does that translate to the fall. We talked a little bit about that. Wrote a trimmings this morning on a young player that's really emerging in the spring. But you take a look at the receiver room as a whole, and it's like, okay, well, no Chase Soul, no Brett Elskison. Like, how does this all come together, and how much do these reps mean when you're formulating a rotation for next year? And I think they mean a good bit. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, you need to find 1 through 6 of that 2 deep for 3 receivers, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit different than you see in the fall. So, like, I think that's what he's going with, is like, yeah, I understand that these reps are meaningful for everybody, but at the same time, we're gonna, I don't want to say revert to our plan for the fall, but it's going to be one of those ones where you just work back into it. Tight end's another great example. No Andrew Appelier, no Gabe Burkle. They're going to be a big part of what Penn State does in the fall. So how much do you see of Rocco Beck? He's still, I don't know if he was, I don't know if there was a status update today in terms of how much he's doing, but he mentioned him specifically in 7-on-7. So, I mean, you're not going to hit the quarterbacks anyway, but it's still some sort of limited basis. So I just look at what they're doing at every position. You can do that for every position. No dunk on the offensive line, defensive lineman. They've been without Granville and Yvonne Kemiju for a lot of the springs. There's so many guys and sort of, I don't want to say name brands, but names that you're going to know for the fall. It's just how does this all translate? It's going to make them deeper. It's going to make them better. But at the same time, like the lineup you're going to see on Saturday is clearly not going to be what you see in September.
What did you take from that, Nate, from what he said there?
I don't know if I would call it tempering expectations, but it's just that they don't have a full deck of cards to play the game. So until that is in place, it really is just establishing. Look, I don't know how much more productive they could be if everyone was healthy, right? Like, how much would they push that? I sense from assistant coaches, and I think we talked about this last week, frustration might be the wrong word, but just everybody's kind of ready to get after it. And because it's all so rudimentary, right? It just, they've talked a lot about being simple, right? Sorry, I just took the words out of your mouth. Totally. But no, I think it's,
we never take the word out of Nate's mouth. You and I.
I
was going to say something like simple, and he went with rudimentary. It's just kind of how this works.
I don't even know what that means. It doesn't matter. But from staff to staff, I don't know how much that's different in college football, right? Like, how much are you growing from last year to this year, right? Using last season as a springboard. Whether there was a staff change or not, I just think most staffs approach the spring in the same way, especially in today's college football, where you are dealing with the transfer portal and you are dealing with experienced players who want more of an OTA environment than, right? They're not killing themselves for spring football. Experienced veteran players, they're not, and it's not happening anywhere. So yes, you've got this developmental aspect of the spring. You've got to set a foundation of what you want to be. And in a lot of cases, that means starting over from square one and just making sure that everybody's on the same page so that when you get to the summer, everybody can build from there. But I do think it's lying or it's naive to not call this a juggling act for Matt Campbell. I think he is subtly screaming that in everything that he has said this spring of, look, these are the circumstances. This is what it is this spring. And how much growth can you get? How much of a foundation can you build before you really get into the cram session, which is late July when camp starts, right? Because they expect everybody to be back. They expect everybody to be healthy at that point. And then it is, all right, all this stuff that you worked to put in from a mental perspective in the spring. All right, now it's showtime. You got 31 days to put it into action.
There is a certain aspect of year one here where they, I think, are being even more intentionally rudimentary. Like, Danton Lynn is installing his defense with everyone for the first time. Taylor Mauser, there's big overlap with some of the players they brought over, but not all of them. You know, their top receivers are not out there consistently, so they're working with some of those young players in the lineup. Tight end, they have 3 of them available most of the time. In the offensive line, it's a mix and match situation with only 1 starter coming over from Iowa State. So you do have this aspect of we're going to be very intentional about how we're going to set the foundation to be good at something, so we can evaluate the player, so that the mental aspect doesn't get in the way of the physical traits, which is what you want to build around. And that's what I asked him later was how do you take this information? Is it now? Do you already have an idea of what you want to be and you're going to implement it later, or you actually have to build that this off season? And he went through how they're going to go about the next step of this, of taking the basics and then trying to go from there.
I think after that's done, then you're talking about going to, again, watch the film, have great understanding of what we've just seen, and then say, okay, players, formations, plays. How do we make sure we build our offense and defense around what we know that we have right now, and maybe what we project we can be by the time we get to the end of fall camp? And you know, I think that's the thing that we all look forward to in coaching. And you know, I think really both sides of the ball come out with a really good foundation of, you know, a baseline pass protection, some baseline run game scheme, some baseline pass game scheme, and no different on defense. I think we've done a great job keeping it really simple. Here's our base defense, here's our base fronts and coverages. Now, where do we expand?
To me, it's interesting. I was thinking about this because he says it a lot. Players, formations, and plays. And in that order, right? So players, everyone understands that. Understanding what the players are good at, which is what they're trying to do right now, is assess what's everybody good at. What are their strengths and weaknesses? How do we hide the weaknesses? Then formation is second. And to me, like, because I've been obsessing about it since January, like, defensive formations are where I think that it's been the most limited. It's been the most specific from what I've seen, where I was expecting much more variety, and yet it's been very simple of what I've seen. So that is a lot of, I think, the next step for this team. And I'm just curious if either of you had any other thoughts when it comes to how, because you mentioned in there, Fitz, what we think we can be good at, and I think hitting towards, like, what are you with Andrew Rapplier on the field? What are you with Tony Rojas out there? What can you do that we can't do right now because those guys are on the shelf?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add to that, because you look at every single position and it's not question marks about guys, just absences, right? Just kind of how they work around it, because Tony Rojas can play. Like, there's, we have questions about how he'll come back from injury, and he takes a false step here and there, but he can play, right? You saw how far things fell when he was not in there last year. But you've got these expectations, you've got these consistencies for your veteran players that you're not getting from your youth. He talked about Kobe Howard today. He talked about, he makes some plays, but also, he's got a lot of work to do on a consistency basis. So I think that is what you're looking for. And there's only so much observing that you can do. And it's funny to listen to him talk, because he is so clearly in the discovery phase of what he's still in the discovery phase of what he has on this roster. And when you take over in December, 40% of the roster, or whatever, brought over from Iowa State, and then you try and put the pieces back together and understand what who has validated what you thought coming in and who has exceeded. That's a very interesting thing to me, is how he handles all that and how that turns into reps for everyone on the roster, not just the Iowa State guys.
Fitz put this in the chat. This is a great question. Who are we looking forward to seeing in action on Saturday? Once we get through between the lines, we're going to talk about that, of what we're interested in seeing, some of the things I want to learn, something they want to learn, and we want to know from you, what players' positions are you interested in seeing? Drop that in the chat or reply to do it in the video, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Nate, did you have any other thoughts on that? Because I want to let you have your time, but I also want to ask you about Max Granville. You and I were both there talking to Max, and I found that conversation enlightening and interesting. So any other final thoughts on, something he said about player development in the offseason, any of those things?
Players, formations, plays. Where are we in agreement that we're reading that as an inverted pyramid?
Yes. Yeah. Wait, as in the bases, players? I'm not sure. Sorry. Please be more specific.
You know, so like in the food pyramid, sugar's at the top, but you don't want that, right?
Right. Well, there's a new pyramid. Did you know that?
Don't start.
Yes. The most
just-
important is players, for sure.
I'm just getting the hang of
I
nutrition.
thought it was breakfast, but okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
he's-
it is an
he's-
inverted pyramid.
He's very specifically emphasizing, look, this game is about players doing things, right? Achieving things, executing. And that can be accentuated by the formations, and then that can be accentuated by the plays that are called, right? He's ranking those in importance. So I do think this spring has been, to Fitz's point, like, who's good? Who's like, who can do it? Who is struggling with what? Because when he talked to answer your question about those 12 weeks that are coming up, filling gaps, right? What are the areas in your game that it is now clear through the past 4 weeks of spring practice are not where they need to be, right? Because you've got things that everybody will have shown, and nobody's perfect, like, right? Yeah, it's the entire roster will have things that they're good at and strong at, and then things that are weaknesses that, if they're not corrected, become a liability. And I thought that the conversation with the receivers, and particularly how young that room is and how much it has room for growth, is critical, because he's said, and I'm paraphrasing, if they don't make the growth that has already happened but needs to continue to happen, they're not going to be as good as they need to be as a football team. Like, they're just not.
Yeah.
They're not going to reach their potential as a team without those areas of growth coming to fruition over the next 12 weeks. So I'm super interested to see where that's at and how much growth they take over the next 12 weeks.
And on that point, we opened the show talking about the basketball portal and how when you take these guys in there, that I don't want to say you're stuck with them, but like, this is the roster. Like, there's no spring portal for them to go out and get Amari Campbell. There's no spring portal for them to get Trevor Pena this year. Like, so you understand what you've been dealt, and you know the cards that you've recruited and the cards that you've built this roster with. But there's really no changing it. There's no getting around it. So that's the dice that are being thrown in the spring for everybody, right? Is there's no way to get around. Okay, so we wanted 4 tackles to be ready. We have 3. We can go out and find somebody. You know, like that's not going to happen this year. So I'm very, very curious to see how all this comes together and how much versatility is going to play into it. We've got a conversation in the chat right now about Quentin Martin. Somebody wants to see him as a receiver. I mean, I don't see that happening, but like,
they need him as a running back first.
They need him as a running back, but if he is that playmaker that, you know, I thought he was very good against Clemson, but the playmaker that we thought that he could be, how does that change his role based on what you see from Carson Hansen, what you see from James Peoples? I'm very interested to see how they make the most of this 105-man roster without being able to change it.
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, well, this is digging up dead bodies in some ways, but like Andy Kotelnicki, I know. I just think there's a carryover, right? There are concepts that are universal to coaching that sometimes get lost in translation. And one of the things that he talked about last offseason about the 2024 season was people complaining about the receiver position, and him basically his retort being, I would have been stupid to have not seen Tyler Warren for what he was and then gone after it, right? Just lean into that as much as you possibly can. To have seen Katron and Nick be what they were and to have leaned into that during the 2024 season. Choices have to be made about the identity that you're going. You can't be everything. No college football roster is capable. And I mean, maybe Ohio State sometimes, but most of the time.
No, but like to this point, let me put the football to your point. You can't be everything to all things at all times, because you have to practice going back to what Matt Campbell said, you got to be good at something. There are not enough hours in the day, and there are not enough. What's the cycle where you ATP cycle? You don't have enough energy to practice and be an elite at outside zone, inside zone, power, counter. Like, you can't be good at everything. You can't run cover one and then run pass offs in the secondary while also having switches and all these things. There is a mental overload that happens in football. So you have to have an identity of like, this is where we're going to hang our hat. And in situations against certain teams, we can augment or tweak stuff, but we can't change the defense to be something completely different from week to week. We have to have a base defense and a base offense that we always go back to. That's the point of those things. So that's like, you can't be everything at all times. And to the point I think you're going to make, you can't run the ball 50 times and then throw the ball 50 times in the same game.
And all of these things are choices, and those choices are happening right now. They start this week.
And that's why it's really hard to win in college football. And it's why the last 2 national championships have won 1-score games at Penn State. You know, it's just like this is really hard. Even the teams that we see, you mentioned Ohio State and Indiana was dominant at times last year. They have these moments because not everything is the same matchup. Not everything is the video game that you play with. So I think it's very, very interesting to see how all that plays out, and hope that you win the close games. So
winning is hard.
Winning is hard.
Question here, Nate. I'm going to come back to you for this one because, like I said, you and I were both talking to Max Granville. What did you take away from Max overall? It seemed to me like he was just reading body language, not trying to put anything out there, not trying to put words in his mouth. Did it seem to you like he was a little down, a little frustrated with where he is?
Yeah, sure. I think everybody is. It's not just him. I went over and talked to Christian Smith, and he was like, hey, there are ideas of what Max can be based on 12 reps against Boise State when Abdul Carter went down, right? Based on practice reps, but like, he hasn't been able to go, and he kind of self-censored a little bit. I don't think it's encouraged still within the program to really like lean into injury conversation.
Yeah. Let me play that for you. I have that here where he was talking about what happened before and then what he's dealing with right now.
I'd say it's about the same as during the season because I haven't been able to get any team reps yet, but hopefully in the fall I'll see that come to fruition on the
How you feel right now, Lucas?
Feel great. Honestly, like my lower body, where I sustained the injury, I'm not supposed to get into a lot of detail, but I feel great. And that, as far as that goes, I have like a minor back issue right now that's holding me out.
He went on to say, Nate, I think that he had a separate issue again in the offseason in the winter that he had to work through because, like, from what my understanding, he was good to go at the start of the winter, and then he's just had these kind of like things that have cropped up over the last couple of weeks and months, and it just seems like from that situation, just reading his body language, he was very grateful. He led with humility, humbleness, all those things, opportunity, but it also seemed like he was a bit frustrated with where he is in the situation. Concern for the overall team, like talking to Christian Smith and the pass rush situation, feels like this is, if there's one area where I'm going to say like it's not too early to be a little concerned, it would be with this situation, not just with Max, but with the pass rush.
Full stop. Yep. Look, and again, this is where I just lean player empathy. They're not trying to be hurt, right? He would love to be out there right now. And so when guys don't have the opportunity to play at their full potential, either because they're limited, and I called it week to week, I think, day to day, right? Based on how he's feeling, but also medical staff and freeing him up to be a participant in full go. Like he can't do that right now. And so, this is just more time lost for him in that trajectory of getting better. And I mean, I think for Christian Smith, it's super interesting because he doesn't have that history. And like, if you were to ask him point blank, hey, is this a guy that you can count on this year? I think the honest answer is don't know.
Yeah.
And that is that's a tough spot for Penn State to be in this spring of like, is the potential there for Max to be not just good, but great in his career? Absolutely. Does that exist even this season? Is there a desperate need for him to be great this season? Absolutely. All of those things are true. And it's not a knock on the kid or the situation to say, you would love for those things to happen, but are you planning for them to happen right now based on, again, a data set that stretches back 18 months since he last did like relevant work? No, you're not. So that's a tough thing for them to juggle this spring.
We'll get into a little bit later, probably tomorrow, or read about it at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. But like, he's also a guy, from a football perspective, who's trying to do everything right in terms of recovery, rehab, working on things he can work on, some of the things he was talking about that he wants to get better at. All of those things, like he has all the answers and he has the talent. He just needs to be healthy. That's why it just seems like it's a very frustrating situation for him and for Penn State. Final thoughts go to you, Fitz, before we get on to what we want to learn in the blue-white game.
Yeah, and it's a trickle down there with a guy like Granville. It's not necessarily injuring the knee and then injuring the knee again. It's how does that impact the hip? How does that impact the ankle? All the joints in the back and all that stuff. I remember Jonathan Thomas was a running back here, and he was very, very talented. He just could not get healthy because it was always something that was not necessarily the same injury, but something that sprung from his gait or just kind of how he's stretched differently or things like that. So you hope that's not the case with Max. And, they had high hopes for Max before he got hurt. The previous staff did. And I think he's a tremendous talent. It's just a matter of get him on the right course. And again, they're not playing any games in the spring. I understand why he's frustrated. I understand he wants to be out there, but you're not losing games because, he's missing from the lineup right now. You want to have him in September and October. And obviously as far as this team can go.
Yeah. So that's it for Between the Lines. Normally I like to have a fancy little graphic, but because I just didn't have time to make one, we're there we go. Just what was that from Wayne's World? Diddle-oo, diddle-oo, diddle-oo. Let's talk about the blue-white game. I just I'm on one today. What do we want to learn
today?
What are we looking for? What do we want to learn? That's, I think, the biggest thing for Penn State fans is because it's not going to be on the radio. It's not going to be on the TV. You got to be there. So make sure you subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. 50% off of our coverage. All of us are going to be there. So you're going to get wall-to-wall coverage of the game. We're going to do our best to give you a blow-by-blow of what's going on. 50% off if you go to the site right now. You get Blue White Illustrated, On 3, Rivals, and The Athletic. It's draft week. You're going to definitely want to check out The Athletic for the Beast. When somebody drafts on day 3, some guy you've never heard of, you can go in there and find out from Dane Brugler of The Athletic. And I'm just selling that because it's this week, but we've got tons of stuff on our site, and you're paying half off for all that stuff. Okay, so what are we interested in looking for, Fitz, that you want to learn on Saturday? Which players do you want to see again for your third watch through of this spring?
Single out a couple. I've mostly been with the defense when we've been at open practice. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the offensive guys. Malachi Goodman's a guy I'm irrationally high on. Is he there yet? I don't know because he's got all the physical tools. He's got everything that you want in an offensive lineman. You're curious, is he a left tackle, right tackle? How does he fit with Donka coming back? There's so many questions that I have, but the answers that I keep getting is this guy's a freak. He's going to be able to make it work. Now, I will say this. It's spring football. The offensive line always sucks. It's not, there's nothing new. You look back at every spring game I think that we've ever been to, and there's defensive ends running around getting sacks. They don't have to bring the quarterback to the ground, which really helps a lot with the sack numbers. But there's very, very, I don't want to say one-sided, but it's always tough to see. So how much can you glean from what Malachi Goodman's able to do, what Cooper Cousins is able to do? There was a comment earlier, I think it was Bizzle, that said something about Cooper Cousins, and I feel like we're going to go back to this. Is like, is he good? Like, I understand he's a great prospect. I understand that he is one of the faces of the team. Is he ready to take the next step to being a good offensive lineman? He didn't start last year. I think that was interesting when you take a look at TJ Shanahan coming in almost cold turkey as a transfer and getting those snaps, and Cooper didn't. I think the world of Cooper. I think he's awesome. It's just about how big can that leap be this offseason to being a productive all Big Ten honorable mention to whatever team you want to put him on. Like, is he there? Is he there based on expectations for what we think he was going to be or is going to be, or is he there as with his play? I think it's a logical question going into this offseason.
Yeah, and it's one where, you mentioned Malachi Goodman. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but you do have other options available to you if you need to take them and things aren't working out, given how much talent they have at tackle. Nate, who are you looking? And I'm not trying to put that on anybody.
First of all,
or
I
cast
love
those
conspiracy theories, so let's get into anyway. No, I want to.
I guess I'm just negative vibes, maybe. Who do you want to see?
I want to reframe the conversation.
That's a first.
If the corners don't have 6 or more interceptions, what are they doing?
Because you think it's going to be that against the freshman quarterbacks?
They're all back. The quarterbacks are dead. Like, this should be hunting season for those guys.
Yeah.
Right? You've got the carryover of retention for players who have been at Penn State. I mean, it's two things. One, I'm having fun. But two, I do think that there is an onus on those cornerbacks to be really good this season. I think they have the talent to be really good this season. I think they have the experience to be really good this season. I think they're being counted upon, given some of the other uncertainties that do exist on the defensive side of the ball, to be really good. I think they got to be that, and they've got to create turnover opportunities for themselves. And it'll be interesting to see, based on Rocco coming off of I keep using the word dead, but a bad arm last year.
Yeah.
Right. Like, his throwing arm is not where it's going to be. Mansky's not going to play. Connor Berry, and then 2 true freshmen and I do think that it's not insignificant that of the highlights of the practice highlights that Penn State has put out internally from its in-house media arm, interceptions have been one of them that stick out to me, is Audavian and John Muir. Like, those guys have had picks, and so put them on the field on Saturday afternoon and see if they can do the same thing.
Here in the chat, Brady Smith also curious to see D3 transfer Connor Berry on the field. Shady Bell, before he went into his Quentin Martin soliloquy, said he wants to see James Peoples. He thinks he's going to be, and I just to summarize, not to say it was anything other than thoughtful, but he wants to see James Peoples. Obviously, he wants to see Quentin Martin, and then Brady Smith he's not being picky. He wants to see everything: Kobe Howard, Zay Robinson, and Karan Brookins, James Peoples, and the DNs. He wants to see all of it. Brady, here's my suggestion. Make sure you get a potpourri. Make sure you get the buffet of looking at everything. But if you want to learn something, you got to pay attention to it, because at a football practice, it's everything all at once, and you don't get to just all right, rewind it. Let's go watch this other group. So if you're going to be going, make sure you know what you want to watch, because you want to watch all that stuff, and you'll get a little bit here, a little bit there. And for me,
hey, hold on, Nate. Sure. Are you down on the running backs?
Am I down on the running backs? No,
that was supposed to be me.
Oh.
But I didn't understand that either. But go ahead. Ask me more.
So
I like the running backs.
Let me answer here. Let me take the wheel again, because this is where I was going, actually. Fitz, that's a great segue. From a positional standpoint, I want to see the running backs, because I think two things. We have yet to see live work when they're out at camp. We've seen practices, we've seen some positional drills, we've seen some install, but we haven't actually seen offense versus defense. In that situation, I think the running backs will actually show what they're capable of, because running through a theoretical hole doesn't really tell me a whole lot other than the looks like game. For the running backs, I'd like to see, how they've progressed, what they look like, and because it's a position that I don't have a lot of information about. And for the inside joke that Fitz was talking about, there was this social media conversation about Nate and I having a conversation on this show. Like, Nate, we made it to the point where there was a conversation about us on social media that lacked any context of what we actually said in the second conversation. And what this has boiled down to is that Nate and I are not negative about this group. We just don't know how it's going to work out because we have two players that have like 50 career snaps between the two of them that are going to be part of this running back rotation. And so, like, we can all project that they're going to be great. We can all say James Peoples was an Ohio State recruit and he's going to be great. And Quentin Martin had a great game against Clemson and he's going to be great. But, like, A, what does that look like? How does he look great? What are his specific skills that he brings to the table that we actually know? Not that we project from his high school film or we saw in the context of one game against a defense that was missing half of its starters in the postseason. But what do we actually know about him and James Peoples? And I don't know enough to be confident about that group. Not to say that I don't think they can do it or they can't, as Matt Campbell said, in the next 12 weeks, work on those deficiencies to become better football players. So for me, like, my number one thing I want to watch is the running backs this week. So there you go. End of rant.
Can I see the offensive line in front of them too? I'm a real disciple of running back success being, I mean, this is so stupid. I just feel dumb saying it, but like the offensive line has to be good for them to be good to the level that people want. I just, right. You need a passing game threat. It's all hand in hand. And I understand we latch onto individual performances because it's easy. It's right in front of us, but it's all domino stuff that it waterfalls its way, impacting other things, how defenses approach you. Unless you're Saquon, which is fine. And he's cool. He's an alien. Like, but it's just the breadth of what happens in this game it happens up front first, right? I mean, it's cliche, but like, it's just true. It's just true. And if you're not looking at Penn State's offensive line this year with the pieces that it has and asking yourself questions about that first, and then asking questions about the running back, and then asking questions about Rocco being healthy, and then asking questions about Chase Soul and all of his potential that did and did not come to fruition last year at Iowa State. Like, all of it, it's all there. It is all there. And there are absolutely reasons for Penn State fans and not fans to have optimism for what this group can do offensively. But there's also very legitimate, like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think it's a talented team. Like, there is a wing of the fan base that thinks that they don't have enough talent, right? Like, superstar talent. I think this is a good team, and like, just to the offense. Fitz, positions you're interested in or things that you want to learn that we haven't learned yet. What are you looking for this weekend?
Wide receiver. You talk about not having those two guys out there, but you do talk about having Kobe Howard, having Zay Robinson, having Karan Brookins, having Lyric Samuel, these guys that, could potentially play their way into that 5 or 6 man rotation if that's the direction that they go into. Those things are going to matter because you look at the body types that they have and the opportunities that guys like Howard and Zay Robinson might have that are a little bit different than the 6'3" guys on the outside. There's different ways to make this work. And of course, you're going to, again, with what Nate was saying, have a ripple effect with the tight ends and how they're going to play a lot of tight ends. Like, I don't know that there's any way around it. Like, we're talking more so 2 and 3 tight ends than 1 or 2 tight ends. Like that there's a lot of opportunities to play around with that. And it's going to affect everybody else's snaps. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Defensively, the defensive line is so fascinating to me. I'm still not there in terms of what I expect from that group. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of, okay, this guy in this situation is a total fit in what they're trying to do in stopping the run. But what about the other 3/4 of the game? What about the other things that are going on here? That and Armstrong Nadim seems to be some sort of animal. And I'm really, really excited to see him when we talk about individual players, because he is 320 pounds, but he's a different 320 pounds
Doesn't
than
look like it.
the Polynesian guys, than the guys that they brought in that are 25 years old, 26 years old. Like I
Yeah.
mean, he looks it in the sense of like, this dude is massive, but he can also move, I think, a little bit better than most at that weight.
Yeah.
So really excited to see what he brings to the table, because I think that is I'm not going to sit here and tell you in April that he's a potential game-changing defensive tackle, but he's a guy that's got some tools that not a ton of people his size have.
Yeah, and has gotten to that size naturally, or progressively, and hasn't packed on a lot of weight. So it's like a lean sort of 320. So the last thing for me is like, what is super simple for this defense? Have they practiced any of these 5 down fronts I'm expecting to see from them? Any of these odd looks? Or is it straight up like, we're going to be playing basically what you've seen from Penn State for the last 12 years in terms of defensive alignment up front? I have seen very little. It's been pretty vanilla. So I'm interested to see more of that defensive front. Even though we've had a chance to talk to those players and those coaches over the last 2 weeks, it is still, if the running backs are the area of mystery on offense for me, it is the defensive line in terms of like that edge rushing room that we covered today and the overall scheme. If they haven't done any of it, I would be a little surprised.
Has anyone called Dan Lin a mad scientist yet? Like, I haven't heard any of that this spring, so I'm just and that makes me feel good, because we talk about coordinators in the last couple of times. Every time that label comes up, Mike Yurcich, Shane Okoroniki, Jim Knowles, it's not great.
So that's like Jim Rat for the small white wide receiver that catches everything. Yeah,
Maybe.
That's the coded language. Yeah. Nate, any final thoughts about what you want to see this weekend before I get to one final thought from the chat? Oh, and before I get to that, please like the video. Always helpful. Nate.
Your guess is as good as mine as to what we're going to see, how good we're going to see, how long we're going to see. Are they going to go 2 hours? I don't know. Are they going to have a halftime? They don't have halftime at practice. So, I think it's all going to be interesting. But also, and this is rare, maybe a little bit of sausage being made here, but as journalists who like to report on things, in a world where literally everything is direct access, it's on television, it's right in front of you. The challenge of reflecting what happens to the public in words and on video is fun. Like that'll be.
Are you saying that our game summary article is going to be incredibly valuable this year, and people should definitely check it out after the game?
I'm saying let's just read into it as much as we want.
Yes.
Let's go nuts.
Yes. I love it.
Because everyone knows that my eyes are as reliable as it gets when it comes to evaluating football players.
Fitz, you don't have a response. It was breathtaking. You didn't even have a response to it.
I have plenty of responses to it. We don't have the time for it. You last year did amazing note taking and did your play-by-play afterwards. So hopefully that'll be something that you can store in your mind once again, and definitely not on any other devices.
Don't have those on a hard drive anywhere.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because practice is always when you're looking, basically. Like there are things that happen that we might report and somebody else didn't see, or somebody else saw and we didn't report. And it's always crazy to me that's how narratives get shaped. That's how things get put out there, and it'll be nice to see everyone look at this and be like, oh, cool, this is a lot of fun. I have no idea what's going on. And that's what I always look forward to on Saturday. So hopefully do a lot of scrimmaging, because when you scrimmage, there is tangible outcomes, right? There's touchdowns, there's interceptions, there's things that you can see individual plays being made. And then when you go back and you take those exquisite notes, there's more to be seen. So there's definitely always more to be seen at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. So definitely check us out for the fullest extent of our possible coverage. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the weather's nice. For what the blue-white game had become or has become, like that's one thing, but I still think there's room for the weekend. There's room for the nostalgia of college football and things like that over the next couple of days, and I'm looking forward to that. And again, hopefully we get some complimentary weather, and hopefully we get some fun times and some, I remember Justin King and Derek Williams coming in. The things that you remember from these games are not necessarily what translated to the fall, but how it kind of made you feel in the moment. I'm looking forward to who can still harness that, because it's gotten a lot harder.
And I'm going to leave the show here with our shadow host, Bizzle. He says, football should be fun. We know it's a business, but it's fun. He has nailed the ethos of what I want this show to be, which is like, yes, we're all very serious. We try to do a good job, tell you the truth as best we know it, but also like, let's have some fun. It's football. And it's back this weekend for one weekend only, in whatever form it is, whether you're in the parking lot throwing the ball with your kids, you're on the field and you're actually one of the players, or you're watching in the stands. We get to all come back together and enjoy football for a weekend. So this is not a eulogy or a benediction, because we're going to be back for 2 more days to talk about it. Greg and I are going to come back tomorrow. I got to talk about Siali Tabake. We also have an interview with Blake Betton. We're going to play part of that on tomorrow's show. So a bunch of stuff. Andy wants to talk about the draft, which is this week. We haven't even gotten into any of that. So plenty of football to discuss here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe, because we'll be back with more this week. We'll talk to you then.